consumer goods industry in India and global locations. He has set up multi-million dollar P&Ls and has 25 plus years of experience in corporate. Aside from his professional pursuits, he is an engineer with education in numerous fields, including law, economics, human resource, and corporate governance. Welcome, sir, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks. Thanks for the brief introduction. Thank you very much. And thank you very much for inviting me again. This is a beautiful topic that I love talking about. As part of my job, in last 32 years of my career in HR, this is one thing which I have professed with full religiousness actually. As part of my job, I feel it important that anybody who comes to my company, who works for us, has at least gone through an interview with me. So interviewing is a very important process. It's naturally an interaction between a candidate who's aspiring for a job and the interviewer who works on behalf of the employer to find the right profiles for the company. So as part of Deepak Fertilizers, where I work now, what we have in a company is a foundation actually, which trains people in new skills, in engineering skills. And as part of their course curriculum, what we do is we give them one exposure of mock interview. And the whole purpose is that while they undergo a 4 or 5 months training, that improves their knowledge, that improves their skill. But what they don't get is who's going to interview them and who's going to give them job. And that's a very different ball game. So as part of our CSR foundation that we have within the company, we volunteer a few high-ranking managers who are at GM and AVP level, who go out to our foundation, which is in another building in Pune, and help the candidates hone their skills around interviewing process. The other type of interviews that generally are conducted in a company are campus interviews. Every year, every company, which is a successful company, hires people from campus. It could be engineering students. It could also be MBA graduates. And that's a very detailed process which generally runs for about 3 to 4 months in any company. And that has several parts to it. It could have a pre-placement talk talking about the company and what it does, what kind of business is it into, and what has been the journey of the company so far. It also sometimes makes use of a tool which is a psychometric profile, whereby generally you get a good idea of the persona of the person and his attitudes and all. And the interviewing process in that case is simpler because you are simply calibrating the facts that you already have and the academic qualifications which are in the form of a resume that you can read through. So that's the campus that happens in most of the companies, including Deepak Fertilizers, where I work. The other two interviews are more important. If there is a literal job opportunity in the company, that's where company reaches out to recruiters, search consultants to find out the right profiles. And for that, what company generally does is it rolls out a job description, which details not only about the job and the responsibilities that a person is supposed to carry. It also talks about the reporting relationships that the person will have in terms of who will be the boss of this person, who will be the peers of this person, and if it's a senior enough role, then how many people will report into this role. This is an important piece of document. Generally, I have seen that people go through it and basis that sometimes they redraft their resume also. Make sure that you have gone through each and every word of this job description, because most of the discussion that happens during interview is based on this job description. What an interview generally is looking for the right fit according to job description, because I am in HR and I support lots of functions Functions could be corporate governance, function could be corporate affairs, it could be marketing, it could be sales. So I may have some knowledge about that function, and I may also have some knowledge about the products and services that my company offers. But I may not have the line level detail of the job description and the responsibilities the person is supposed to carry out. So for that, even I will refer to the job description the same way as the candidate himself is kind of referring to the job description. So as a strategy to crack an interview, it's very important that you go through this job description in detail and understand every aspect of it. Because over the interview, you will find that many of the questions are kind of moving around or hovering around this job description. The last one is about the promotion interviews. Promotion interviews are generally the most toughest. Why? Because these are within the same company where you have been working. Your knowledge of the job role and your knowledge of the next job role for which you have applied has to be optimal, because somebody is going to interview both in terms of your knowledge test as well as your attitudes and behaviors for the next level role. So promotion interviews by far are most difficult. And I have seen people kind of preparing for a number of days, sometimes running into 3 to 4 weeks also, taking help from their existing manager, taking help from their peers, and rightly so, because it's a matter of your career. And you cannot take promotion interviews lightly, actually. Like the previous speaker said, if you are really serious about a job or an opportunity, the one thing that you should definitely do is go through in detail about the company. There are lots of details about the companies to which you generally apply. The easiest ones are the company's balance sheets and P&Ls, because these are published every quarter. And while this gives you objective details about the company, alongside there are also subjective details about the vision of the company, the mission of the company. Like our company speaks a lot about CSR. And in that, we also talk about our foundation, which renders a good service to people. Likewise, other companies also, like IT companies, speak a lot about their customers. They speak a lot about the big deals they have cracked. They also talk about the new expansion areas. It's very important. So alongside job description, you also read a lot about the published material of that company. That will help you prepare very seriously about the job that you're looking for. And you can also see how best you are going to align your answers to the themes that company is proposing. So for example, again, going back to Deepak Fertilizers, we are primarily into 3 areas of business. One is fertilizers. We convert petrochemicals into fertilizers. And the other one is into chemicals which are used in hospitals, like your hand sanitizers. And the third one is a triammonium nitrate, which is an explosives business. I also take care of that business as part of my responsibility. Now, once you read about explosives, it's very different. The first impression that comes to your mind is very different. But if you go through the company literature and the published material, you will realize that these explosive materials are used in coal mining to do controlled blasts in the mines. They're also used in tunneling operations in India. And once the road network has to be expanded, obviously there are mountains which come in between, and you have to kind of do tunneling operations. Again, you have to do control blasts. Now, the moot point here is that if you read the company literature, you will find that company is aligned to the infrastructure vision of the government, of the Prime Minister and of the NHAI Minister. Why this exposure is important? Because there is no other way you can make a road through the mountain. The only thing that you can do is do tunneling of that mountain, create a tunnel in and let the road pass through it. And for that, you need high scientific solutions like explosives and controlled blasts. So all that is done by the company. Now, if someone is interested in research and development of that part, or in marketing or infrastructure, will have to go through it. There are latest science and technologies like drones operations, like colored imaging of the blast site, etc., because that throws a lot of data post blast, and the whole blasting solution is videographed so that you can sell it to the next customers. So once you read through that, you get a lot of insight about the company and how far the company has gone. And if you are an explosives graduate having worked in another company for 5 to 10 years and you want to make a move into this company, good preparation around what this company does, how this company does, what are the latest technologies involved, will put you in the right stead, because you can very well then imagine what kind of questions will be asked by the company expert around this field. Likewise, to just give you another example, we are into industrial chemicals. So far in India, most of the hand sanitizers are made out of ethanol, which is a byproduct of sugarcane. And those are used in hospitals and in retail market also. But our company produces a different kind of hand sanitizer, which is made up of IPA, industrial level propyl alcohol. And though there is only 10% market, but actually it's a more expensive product and it's a more potent product. And most of it finds its way in the hospitals. So if someone is interested in IPA kind of market, it will be good for him to go through the company's published material and read more about it, read a comparison between how an ethanol-based hand sanitizer works and how an IPA-based hand sanitizer works. So that gives good insights about the product, about how you are going to kind of make out your answer. And if you're applying for an R&D kind of a role, what new products can be made out of the raw material that we have, which is ammonia, which is nitrate, which is petrochemicals, and which is polypropylene alcohol, etc. So that is the beauty of studying the company material. Go prepared, read a lot. Now, like I said, an interview is a formal interaction. It's an interactive conversation between two individuals, and they have their formal roles. One person has to ask the question, the other person has to answer. Generally, the time limit for interviews is anything from 45 minutes to 1 hour, depending on the seniority of the role. A very, very average time budgeted for any interaction is about 45 minutes. So in your mind, if you are an interviewee, make sure that you are going to get 50% of this time. Now it's up to you to use this 50% of time for the best of your knowledge, and how do you kind of make use of this to envisage your career in here. So generally in this interaction, you will find there are some very generic questions. These are common across all the companies, but the answer has to be specific. So the general question, the first one that I generally ask is, tell me about your career journey so far, because generally I interview people who have 10 to 15 years of experience, and obviously they have worked in at least 3 to 4 companies. So the idea is to know how the career journey of that person progressed. So the best way is to answer from the last one first, actually, because that's something which is current in your mind, about which you can speak quickly, which is most relevant also, because generally when the recruiters search the profiles, they look out for relevant profiles from the same industry or from the same job type. So the conversation is always very easy, and you are speaking from your own source of truth. You don't have to make up for any answer, because it's a very, very generic question saying, tell me about your career journey. And while you're speaking about your career journey, The answer has to be well rehearsed, of course, but make sure that you are succinct in your answer. You don't have to kind of use 5 to 6 minutes to explain your career journey. You genuinely have to invoke interest in the interviewer. And for that, give short pauses in between to see what is the reaction of the interviewer. So in earlier days, the interviews used to happen in person about 2 years back. In last 2 years, most of the interviews are following this virtual medium. Even then, it's preferred that the video on both sides is on, both from the interviewee side as well as interviewer side. And obviously, while you're speaking and making the eye contact, you can know whether you're generally invoking the interest in the interviewer or not. And for that, you give short pauses in between. And obviously, then letting the other person get into the discussion, whereby if he feels that he can make out the part of the answer that you're going to give, he can kind of supplement it with another question. And that may be more interesting to you also. And that may also give you some breather, because the thought process then suddenly will move to the next source of truth about your company, or about your job role, or about your reporting relationship, or about your products. And it's always easier to speak about those things, which has a very common source of truth actually. Then you are not making up for words or making up for any abstract thinking at that spur of the moment. The other question generally I ask, and it's a very genuine question and has to be asked by any interviewer, is why would you like to work with us? Why would you like to join our company? And that's where you go back to your preparedness basically around it. Because once you are well read about this company, then you know what are the product sector you are talking about. You can also interview your answer saying, if you are in a smaller company and this is a bigger company, then you can say that it was my dream to kind of move to a bigger company in a bigger role, which you are offering me. And that's why I'm interested. It also gives you your relationship with the person you are going to work with. So if you are working in a smaller role in a company like an executive reporting into a manager, but in the new company, you are being offered the role of a manager reporting into a deputy general manager, then you can very well cite that saying, I see it as a career growth because so far I have been working as an executive for 3 to 5 years in my previous company. But now the role that you are offering me is of manager, and this will report into a DGM. So I see my career growing when I join your company. So that makes a very relevant answer, and that does not need to be a very long, winding answer. Like I said, the answers have to be succinct. Time is precious. Time is precious both for you as well as the interviewer. So make best use of the time, and you don't have to fill the time. If you are told in the beginning, like there is a 45 minutes conversation, it doesn't mean that you have to fill 45 minutes. And it doesn't mean that by just answering 2 or 3 questions, you will fill the time and you will be successful. No, you will be successful only if the interviewer feels that he has exhausted all the questions that he wanted to ask. He has got to know more about the person in terms of person's knowledge, as well as persona, as well as attitude. And once that conversation is over, you will also get to know that the conversation is over. He has asked all the questions. He has got all the facts that he wanted to know about me, about my job, about my career aspirations. And only then it will be deemed that the interview was complete as well as successful. The third thing generally that I ask, especially from those people who have 10 to 15 years of experience or more. Sometimes I interview people with 20 to 25 years of experience also. And once you are interviewing someone with 20 to 25 years of experience, then they are in the age bracket of 50 plus years also. So from mid-manager onwards, you want to know as to how do you envisage your career over next 3 to 5 years. Now, there is an intent behind this question, and you should know whether you are an interviewer or interviewee. It works for both of you. Generally, 3 to 5 years is considered as a strategic period, both for the company as well as your own career. So if you have a good image of yourself as to How far do you want to go in next 5 years? And with that, how far you can grow your business based on your knowledge and exposure in the previous jobs. If you can kind of express that in a very nice way, which other person can understand, then that makes a good pitch. That's how you sell yourself. So the beauty of this is don't oversell yourself. Don't promise something that you can't do, which means that you are also not sure of your own source of truth. But also don't undersell yourself, because the career is made up of 25 to 30 years, sometimes 32 years. So you have to achieve whatever you have to achieve in this one life that God has given you. So you can promise as much as you can deliver, and you can commit whatever you can deliver by saying that this is what I have learned so far in my career journey of last 20, 25 years. This is my sweet spot where I can deliver the best results in any field. It can be your field of R&D, it can be your field of marketing, it can be your field of sales, it can be your field of accounting, it can be your field of treasury, any business. But the number of years you have put behind it and the kind of exposure you have gained by interacting with many people comes out when you're speaking about this 3 to 5 years time horizon as to where you see your career. And the beauty and the passion behind the answer generally tilts the scale in your favor. I am very keen to hear people when I ask them this question. And I am very keen to hear both their words as well as their body language and the passion with which they kind of speak, because these are the people who decide the fate of the company. The passionate people are the ones who decide the fate of the company. So very important question. Just remember that once somebody is asking you this question, that's your gold nugget actually, which is going to win you the job. While I'm telling you all the positives, I also see sometimes that people come out with innate negative traits. We are into professional interactions with people around us, whether it's your previous job or the new job that you're going to get. So make sure that you keep your tone and your words very, very neutral. Those should not be loaded words, and there should not be any loaded emotions behind it. So one thing I would caution everyone is that never say that I left that job while you're talking about your career journey because I did not like my boss. That cannot be a right answer. Everybody is human, right? Your perception of someone does not decide whether you are right. So don't give that as an answer, because like I said, the person is not judging you only for your knowledge. Person is also judging you for your persona and the aura that you carry and the attitude that you have, whether you have the self-righteous attitude saying, I am all right, everybody else is wrong about around me. No, that doesn't work. That doesn't work in the professional circle for sure. So you have to say that, what should you say in that case? You have to say that the company was not growing at that phase in time. And that's where I felt that I had to make a career move because I had to make a career, right? Or the company was running into losses for continuous period of 1 to 2 years. And that's where I felt that company is not even able to offer increments to employees' salaries. And that's where I thought that I had to leave. So that's the right approach to kind of giving the right answer. The other thing that I would like to tell you, and has been touched upon earlier also, that you have to thank the interviewer at the end. It's both ways generally. While the interview kind of generally starts with giving a brief introduction about the company and about the person who's interviewing you, it also closes with a formal thanks note, and it could be a 2-line thanks note saying, thank you very much for the opportunity given to me, and I look forward to working with you. And that's a good formal way of closing an interview. The last thing is very important. As soon as the interview is over, you will find that the next steps are kind of initiated by the company, the interviewer or the recruiter, which generally is about reference check. And reference check generally is not about the referees that you are kind of naming. Reference check generally happens with the previous company where you worked, And generally it follows through the very formal channels whereby it reaches out to the HR person or HR manager of that company. Just make sure that you never leave any company with rough edges behind, because that can cut you sharply again. And sometimes when everything else has gone right in your favor in terms of the company that you chose, the kind of interview you got, the kind of answers that you gave, and hopefully you clicked that interview also and the company was about to make an offer, but the reference check process kind of derails the whole thing. That could be because of your one wrong conversation at the end while leaving the company, or one heated conversation with the previous company. Don't do that. Never leave any rough edges behind. Never leave anything open-ended in the previous company. Close all the formalities, close everything, and then make a move. That will always keep you in the right pedestal, basically, to make a career move that you're looking for. So that's what I had, both in terms of the relevance as well as the experiential learning that I have around interviewing process. And I believe that you got some right messages out of the conversation that we had today. So I would thank you for this opportunity today, and I'll pause my words.